Hi, I'm Lauren Hubele. Welcome to Shamanism, Metaphysics, and Grace. Jyoti, welcome back. I understand you have an astrological update for us today.
I do. The focus is the new moon solar eclipse on the 25th of this month.
Jyoti, I know everyone's feeling it already. Why is that so?
Well, there's also other things leading up to it, and I think that where Mars is right now, and it's square to Neptune, is what's creating a lot of confusion, a lot of almost you could say for some people identity crisis. Who am I, what do I want for myself, what am I doing here, what is this world, coming to, as my parents might have said. And it's creating a lot of havoc, I think, so that we can see beyond what we've thought was the way things were, taken things as the way things were um, as the truth or as how they had to be. And so I think the veil is kind of being shifted a little bit so that we can see more of what we want our lives to look like and how do we begin to create that for ourselves.
Jyoti, as I'm listening to you, this makes sense in my head, but in my experience, it's hard for me to say this confusion is helping me see more clearly. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Well, from an astrological point of view, Neptune seems to create this fog or mist. It's the ruler of Pisces, and it is the planet of spirituality. It is the planet also of illusion. And so it seems to like create this fog or mist or this illusion of things so that then it can come through and rent the veil and show you the truth of the illusion, show you the truth of how things have been. So, with Mars squaring Neptune, I feel like we are being given opportunities to see, how day to day works and what we want in the day to day instead of what's given. I know the pandemic had a lot of people looking at the 8 to 5 routine, even kids looking at their 8 to 5 routine or 9 to 5 routine with school, and wanting, and all of a sudden having to break that routine and adults working from home, kids learning from home. I mean, it started breaking things up so that we could see that there's something else of value or that could serve us besides just what we were trained to believe, that this is the way you do things. Okay. And so Mars is doing its part, I feel, right now. Um, and by its square to Neptune, of pushing us to see something else. But it starts with the confusion. The Neptune, well, is up down. Is this sideways?
Mhm.
Is this how I really want to live? I mean, what is all of this? But sometimes you have to be shaken loose, from the way you've established things in order to see what else there is. Okay, so let's say um, that there's this kind of maybe you have boundary issues. Maybe a person has boundary issues. I'm working with this myself. Okay, and so it's fine how it is, and then all of a sudden you feel pushed. You feel the pressure of too much, too much, too much, and all of a sudden you realize, hey, I need to make some changes here. I need to take care of myself. I need to stand up for myself. I need to make changes in the way I'm responding to what life is bringing me. And so, in making those changes, I'm happier with my life. let's say, or I'm more at peace with my life and how I'm interacting with other people, and especially how I'm taking care of myself. Because during these confusing times, upheaval times, um, we really have to sit inside ourselves and listen and notice, where are we feeling driven? Where are we feeling unsure? Where are we feeling like I can't find up from down, you know?
Sure. So what I'm hearing, Jyoti, and I think this is the discomfort we're all feeling, is places where we're vulnerable are getting pushed.
Yeah.
And they're getting pushed in order for us to revisit them and see if there's ways we can tend to ourselves better.
And
And
re-choose how we deal with those things that are pushing at us. I mean, um, sometimes I look at it and I think, this is the universe employing these people to come to us, to share with us, to show us where we are not taking care of ourselves. You know, it's like the universe is speaking through our fellow humans and bringing them to us so that we have these experiences with them, so that we get the message, okay, I need to have better boundaries. I need to say no when no is the truth and feel okay with it, and let the other person have their feelings. Nobody usually died from being sad or pissed off, and you just carry on, and you take care of yourself, and you give to yourself everything you would give to another person or suggest they do for themselves.
hmm. Yeah, it sounds like it's a little bit of exposing our shadow too.
Yeah, it could be the place where we allow other people to be more important than we are to ourselves,
Yeah,
or something of that same nature.
sure, sure. Yeah, I'm seeing really different behaviors and from people that I'm close to that don't necessarily line up with my vision of who they are. And it's like they're testing out these waters this way of maybe I could be this way.
Well, it's a time of change, and during change, we experiment to see what will serve us and what won't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
So that leads me to the new moon eclipse on October 25th. And for East Coast time, it's 6:49 a.m. And so the eclipse is a new moon, so new cycle. So it's sun, moon, and Venus, and all together the same degree. And so it's very powerful around creativity. And right now, Venus is going to be, trining Mars and then opposing Mars and all of that. But Venus is here with the sun and moon, and she brings us her values and priorities and her creative self expression. And so this is a new cycle of how you express your values and priorities and how you express your creativity. Because I may have talked about this before, but so I'll only digress for a moment. Um, if we are in truth made in the image and likeness of our creator, whoever or whatever that is, um, then we are creators also. And so it behooves us to express that creativity, to bring to the table, in our daily lives, some manifested form of our own creation, of our own creativeness, so that we are, in a sense, fulfilling ourselves as human beings. We are fulfilling that creativity that we carry. I mean, it shows up in our ovaries and it shows up in our, gonads and all of that. We are creative beings and we can create that way by creating life. We can create workshops. We can create works of art. We can create paintings, photography, great dinner parties. We can food and meals and bring that creative self-expression to create schools and homes for the homeless. I mean, it's endless how we express our creativity. It doesn't just have to look like a watercolor painting, you
Mhm.
know, but this is a new cycle of how we express ourselves creatively. And it's not just a new moon, it's an eclipse. And so there's an added piece to this, that eclipses occur and it takes within 3 to 6 months for the average person to say, oh, maybe I need to do this. Maybe it's time for this. And so, usually within 3 to 6 months after an eclipse, the person begins to manifest what that eclipse was about for them personally. But generally speaking, it is a new cycle of creativity. And we're talking about Scorpio. This is a new cycle, a new moon at the very early degrees of Scorpio with Venus there too. And so Scorpio is about depth, it's about creation, it's about transformation, it's about uh, change, deep transformative change. And because Venus is there, it's also about people's values, what they place value on, what's important to them, and what's no longer important.
Wow. So when you're talking about a cycle, Jyoti, I mean, I know we're not talking about one day here. So what are we looking at as far as the length of some of these cycles beginning?
I would say about 6 months, 3 to 6 months. Usually that time that it takes for a person to say, oh, I need to do this or I need to make those changes. It's the next new moon eclipse will be in April of
Right.
23, April 20th.
So what that might feel like on an individual level is we might get glimmers of what we might want to do or could do, but they may not manifest for several months.
Yes, and sometimes the glimmers take several months.
Hmm. Okay.
I mean, we're steeped in day to day. The holidays are coming, family, traditions, all different kinds of things are coming for a lot of people, not everyone, but for a lot of people. And so we're distracted.
Sure.
We get
Sure.
distracted pretty easily. A job ends, somebody in the family's sick, or, you have to move, or, there's so many things that also are part of day to day that get in the way. And then all of a sudden, maybe we have a day and we think, wow, I really need to change my value structure. I'm placing value on things that maybe they're not so important to me anymore. Maybe new things are coming in and I'm looking at, my own value, my own sense of self-worth, my own things that are important to me, and the things that I took care of and were important to me before, you're reframing things for yourself.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. However, for listeners, it seems like it might be a good time to take some notes about what's coming up for them. Because if we're moving, as we are moving into this busy period, maybe any insights that come in to write a little bit about them and then go back for reflection later.
If people can carve out the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's always
I
the
know.
piece, you know?
Yeah, things are
Or
moving
or
fast.
yeah, or put a Post-it on the refridge, yeah,
Oh, I like that idea. That's a sweet idea.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, just as a reminder, heads up. Notice Notice where my mind goes, and notice what intuitions are coming in, or notice what suddenly has my attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so this sun, moon, and Venus of this eclipse, widely but still within range, is trining Mars. And that Mars is also trining Saturn. And so there's opportunity for growth and movement, and there's opportunities for harnessing energy and making things happen. And especially with that Mars trine Saturn. I mean, it's a little wide, but not really. And so it's just saying that whatever the goal happens to be, that kind of comes in. There's the energy to make it happen. There's the
Mm.
there's the energy of harnessing what you need to accomplish that specific goal more easily than it may be other times. Okay. And with the sun, moon, and Venus trining Mars, it gives a certain dynamic energy. It gives an energy to say, yes, this is old, or old ways of looking at things, and I need to make some changes. And wow, I've got the energy to do it. I've got the energy to set things in motion I didn't even realize. Or you've got the help. It's like we're all connected here. And somebody might say something to you, and all of a sudden it's like, yes, that's exactly the piece I needed. So it can come to you through other people, it can come from your own dreams and intuitions. But it's a new cycle, a new time of really reevaluation and being willing to transform what's not working.
Mm. Sounds like a beautiful thing.
It can be, yes. And Mercury is squaring Pluto by 4 degrees or less, actually. And it's about really being willing to look deeper, being willing to see what you're looking upon, being willing to look at, well, what's under the surface there? What's this experience really trying to tell me? Do
Mm.
I need more boundaries? Do I need closure with some situations? Do I need it's giving you an added layer of depth to see what works and what doesn't work, and what your part in that is.
So there's a little bit of sense of taking responsibility here.
Always. Yes. Yes, I mean it's our lives. I mean, we have to be responsible for what we choose and what we do, and stuff happens. Sometimes we make a choice and we fall flat on our face, but the most successful people have failed miserably, sometimes many times before, they were ready, or the world was ready for them, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So sometimes, there's an old expression, um, sometimes, sometimes the bear eats you, sometimes you eat the bear, and sometimes you both go hungry, and it's kind of like that. It's like sometimes your dreams have your name on it, and sometimes you're just not ready yet. And you feel like, oh, I can't do this, or I'm a failure, or this is never going to happen. It's just like, keep going, keep putting one foot in front of the other. You can make your dreams a reality. You can live the life you want, but you have to believe it.
Mhm.
And you have to kind of know what you want. And this eclipse, the sun, moon, Venus, it's bringing a lot of the feminine, a lot of the deep feminine, a lot of the deep personal transformative energy around creativity into most people's consciousness, if they're open to it.
Wow. Love that.
And sometimes, Lauren, it's about just reevaluating. You know, what's worked and what hasn't worked. And what hasn't worked, you let go of to make room for what you want to draw to yourself that will help you, that will work for you.
Sure. Yeah, as you said that, I just thought, if I was in a state of being overwhelmed with life right now, deep transformative change might feel a little threatening.
Yeah, a little scary.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
just looking at like, what is it that I could shift just a little bit to make
just a
myself.
little bit, you know. Maybe you're taking on more than you need to. Maybe you're trying to create a situation. I think I've mentioned this before. There's a biblical expression about casting your pearls before swine. Awful expression, but it says it. And it's like, where might you be bringing something of value to people who really can't appreciate what you're offering them? And it's nothing about a judgment here. It's just knowing where you're being received so that you feel like what you're doing is worthwhile and you're not just throwing, energy after energy into an empty bucket. And it's an endless bucket, it's a bottomless bucket, you know? So you help, you be of service where you can be and where it's truly needed and received, and not just wasting your time and energy.
Yeah, great. Anything else you think folks should know as we go into this interesting period?
I think the other piece of this eclipse, because of the Mercury square Pluto, is being willing to see the truth of things,
Mm.
and also with that Mars, still squaring Neptune. I wanted to mention that the Mars square Neptune is all of October and November, and by mid-March, for a couple days, it comes back. But basically, it's moving on.
Mhm.
Okay, but October, November, some of that confusion, but it's coming to a place of, okay, let me just state this. Let me sit with this. Let me think about, what the truth of all of this is, where I find myself. And then, unfortunately, it's a while, but by March, there's resolution.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's always helpful to know that's coming.
Yes, yes, that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that this isn't how it's going to be forever, because then we all want out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But being willing to see the deeper truth, and then you've got something to work with. And even if it's incremental change, just a little piece, a little bit, it can make a difference. It can give you breathing room.
Yeah.
So I want to add in closing that we go through periods of change and intensity, and then those periods end and we move into different situations and different ways of looking at things, and maybe breathe a sigh of relief, and have a breather until the next round of growth and learning is upon us, because that's kind of like the human condition. And so I just want to say that we're winding down this year, toward the end of this year, at the end of this year, we're winding down a lot of aspects that were happening, and that change is coming. And this was to help us change and then have that breather, have that sigh of relief. And so by the time 2022 is over, I think that all the aspects that were challenging will have fairly resolve themselves, and we will have some breathing room.
Sounds like a great plan.
Yeah, I mean, more to come, I'm sure.
Great. I think I'd really like to invite our listeners to reach out to you individually, Jyoti, if they'd like to have their own chart read. certainly hearing all this information stirs up that question, what does this mean for me in my own life?
Right.
So they could reach you by connecting with your website.
Yes, www.jyotywindastrology.com.
Great. Thanks, Jyoti. Thanks for these beautiful insights. Even though we're in a challenging time, we know it's just part of the bigger process.
It is, absolutely, Lauren. Thank you.